Cameras on.
Okay, guys. This time you're recording.
Cameras on.
This time you're recording.
Sound is good, Mike.
Yeah, we're good. Okay.
We were doing a video. We did being black in Hawaii.
Yeah.
With him and another guy, and good conversation. And then he texts us after.
Hey, you talking about being black?
Yeah. and then he texts us after. He's like, "Bro, I didn't record," and he's like the master, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Ryan, what's up, bro?
How's it
Thank
going?
you. So we were chatting already. This might be the first. It'll be first three probably, but could be the first podcast on Podcast Hawaii, which is different from our real estate channel.
Oh, cool.
So thank you for coming.
Thank you for inviting me.
We've been connected on Instagram for a while. And the way we have some mutual friends. I know you're a cool guy because the people we know mutually are cool people. And I knew you, but I saw Pat and we were talking. So Pat Stachel,
Yep.
local jiu-jitsu hammer.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, can you reach out to him for me? And so that was just last week. And you just like, yeah, let's go. So I appreciate it.
No, yeah.
So you're the founder of In4mation?
One of the four.
One of the four. Oh, so
Yeah.
there's four.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the name information is
Oh,
the
four.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
where it comes from.
Yeah. So
I thought it was just the opportunity to play on words.
yeah. So there's a Todd Shimabuku, Junjo, and Keith Kanagusuku, and those are right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what are you guys are all like skaters? How did it happen?
So I grew up skateboarding.
Okay.
And I met Todd probably when I was a freshman or sophomore in high school.
Okay.
Todd lived in Pro City. I lived in Millani. Keith lives in Millani too, and we all grew up skateboarding together.
Okay.
We met Jun a little later on. Jun's a pro surfer.
Oh.
So when we started, we were working in like skate surf retail a long time ago. We worked at like Town and Country.
You guys were working at HIC, TNC, yeah.
So do you remember Streets of Madness? Like long time ago. See, that's
No.
super old.
Where's that at?
It was at Pearl Ridge.
Pearl Ridge?
Yeah.
Streets of Madness.
And it was like Town and Country's special product, like a little, like there was a real first street shop. They brought in all the like new clothes from the mainland. So that's long time ago. So that's where Todd and I actually met too. We worked together too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
So yeah, we basically grew up like skateboarding. Jun's from surfing. Keith and Todd actually like DJs. Todd helped. Before he worked in that industry, he was a manager at Borders. So he brought down a lot of like hip hop acts and DJs and stuff. So he helped grow like the turntable scene in Hawaii.
Borders. That's a while ago.
Yeah.
Waikele Borders.
Yep.
He used to have concerts.
Yep.
And you could like get your CD signed after whatever.
Yep.
Yeah. Borders. I missed that. So how old were you guys when you were starting it?
Information.
Yeah, information.
So Todd and I were working on a couple of projects before. We worked in different types of retail. Like we worked at a snowboard shop. Later on, we had another
snowboard.
Yeah,
like island snow.
It's called Headside Snowboards. It was in Kapahulu.
Why did we have a snowboard shop?
So that's crazy. So we were one of the most. For at that time, like they only had Island Snow and us. We actually did like serviced snowboards. We actually did repairs. We would do everything. So we worked there for a long time. We learned a lot from like there's even the gray market side of like the industry.
What is a gray market?
So gray market is our boss before was Japanese.
Okay.
So what he did is he would order like probably like almost $1 million worth of Burton.
Oh.
But only like 20,000 would stay inside of this store and the rest would go to Japan. And he did that with a lot of brands. So we never knew about it. Like we learned as we started going.
We're like filter.
Yeah. So it's like it's kind of like a front.
Was Burton not licensed to Japan or not sent to Japan?
During that snowboard boom, there's so much products. Japan just was consuming so much stuff.
And there are brand like we talked about Shoyoro earlier.
Yeah.
Jiu-jitsu brand, which we'll get into that, but that creating that hype and that exclusivity.
Yep.
So and we'll pay for like Japanese stuff. So it's interesting. Like I heard a thing like mainland people want to buy Japanese rice, and then in Japan they want to buy California rice.
Yeah.
So they just wanted Burton, huh?
Yeah. So we do that Volcom, like Gravis. Like it was crazy. Like we would get maybe like 30, 40 boxes of like clothes and shoes or whatever. 2 boxes would stay here, and then the rest would go to Japan. But then later on, it picked up a lot in Hawaii, but we learned like that other side of the business too. So we're like, I didn't even know there was such thing as a great market back
Do you
in
think
the
it was ever profitable here, that store? A snowboard shop on
You know what? In
Kapahulu?
the beginning, we did really well.
Really?
Because a lot of Japanese tourists coming down, and they would spend a ton. Like they would walk. If you're buying like a board, bindings, the goggles, your whole kit, you're walking out there almost $2,000.
Wow.
So yeah, it was a pretty good. And then we left that. We got another Japanese investor, and then Todd and I did another store called Define, and that's where we kind of met Jun.
I feel like I might have heard of that.
Yeah. So that
Yeah.
one we brought in like different brands too. We brought in like brands like Alphanumeric, LRG, like a lot of them were street brands that at the time we just introduced, and that's how we met Jun. Jun was a pro rider, pro surfer for Volcom, but he just changed to Alphanumeric. And then a lot of the guys that were sponsored by that team, we grew up with skating with Jamie, who was one of the team riders, and another guy, Len Higo, was like the automotive guy, and they were all sponsored by that same company.
What constitutes a street brand? Usually you think of like Supreme. Like Supreme is one of the kings of that space, right? And so Supreme and like skateboarders.
Yeah.
But if like, could you be a street brand and not be skateboard? Like what makes it a street brand?
You know what? I think it's just a label. Because
Just
even when we
just
entered
a
in
vibe
the market,
that's undefinable.
I think it's more of a style that I guess there's a more certain aesthetic and look that has more you consider look more of a street look.
Yeah.
Before you go down to New York in the early days, and maybe that like the beginning of hip hop is kind of like streetwear too, right?
Yeah.
It's getting clothes and making it, putting your twist to it, and then later on adding your own label and everything.
I think a lot of that like limited release, like hype beast type stuff comes from that street world too, right? Like there's only 100 shirts, get one, and they're $100 or whatever, right? Show Your Roll really brought that to jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. And I think that's where there's a lot of like really cool parallels to like how they do their business and stuff. Like we really relate to that type of like that industry. Yeah.
So let's talk about that. So I used to own a brand and sold it to the number one brand in jiu-jitsu. I don't know. There's probably some other like brands like Atama or I don't know. I'm out of the fight game now or out of that world now. And actually signed like a non-compete, so I'll probably never be in it again. But I think whether they officially are on tax returns or not, and most people's minds, like Show Your Roll is the number one in jiu-jitsu space. And when I came in 2009, I started doing jiu-jitsu. And at that time, I don't know if you remember, but if you wanted something jiu-jitsu or like fight, it was like affliction. There's like these bleached, glittered skull shirts.
Kind of douchey.
Yeah, in my opinion. Yeah. So I started doing jiu-jitsu it's like the only thing that I've ever been that addictive to that I knew was going to become my life was surfing. Yeah. So I grew up surfing. I joined the Coast Guard, got stationed in California. It was too cold, so I just kind of played basketball for a couple of years. And then I think my brother-in-law guys, I came back and they were like, oh, I went triangle, and then he switched to Omo, and then and I was like, I'm out of the conversation. I don't know what they're talking about, and they're in good shape. So I was like, let me go try it. I tried it, and I just got hooked. Yeah. So I was like, I want to get some jiu-jitsu stuff and some shirts. But there's almost nothing out there. Show Your Roll is in its infancy, so you hardly ever could get anything. And then there was Fuck Eye, so 2 Guam brands. Yep. And I was like, why are there 2 Guam brands and no Hawaiian brand? And so I was in California. So rather than be super like, defend Hawaii, like super Hawaiian, I was like 3150. So California is 31st state, Hawaii is the 50th. And I was like, I'm going to make this thing that's Hawaii, California, jiu-jitsu. And I looked at Brazilians and I was like, they kind of like Hawaiians too in a certain way. Yeah. Like they like to surf, they like to go beach, they fight, they wear board shorts, smoke buds, whatever. Kind of like local mokes, but like maybe wax their eyebrows more or something. Like wear short bathing suits or whatever. But I was like, this affliction stuff doesn't make sense. So I made a horrible design of a shirt, was able to sell enough to make another one, just enough to make. And the way I did it at the time, I sold my bicycle for like $200 something bucks, and then I had $200 something saved. That's cool. And we were poor, like living in someone's basement for like $700 a month or something. And my wife was like, we don't have money to make shirts. What are you doing? I was like, I don't know. Like Budo Videos is out of Show Your Roll, and Fuck Eye is expensive. And that's the other thing is I was like, these shirts cost like $35 on Budo Videos sometimes. I was like, if I can make enough to break even and keep 2 for myself.
Yeah.
And then one thing became another, and all of us towards the end when we were popular, we got orders from Europe and Asia and all over. But I couldn't figure out like fulfillment and systems and getting designs and shipping. Like it was all, I never really figured out business, but I got good at branding.
That's dope.
And
That's the hardest part, I think. One of the hardest part is to get that your brand recognized.
It is, right?
Yeah.
But I think just like in real estate, so that's what I do full time now. Producing, so being a guy or a girl who can sell some houses and make some money, producing and scaling in business, 2 totally separate skills, right?
Yep.
But producers get money and the ego gets big and you think you can scale, and sometimes you end up creating 10 times the mess and the same amount of money or less. You become less profitable. Yeah. But anyways, I built the brand, built it up, and then long story short, it got popular. I kept going, and then I sold out because I was like, I'm gonna focus on my job. I'm gonna focus on this healthcare career. But then after I sold it, all I could think about was business and branding, and all I talked about was investing. And it became obvious in hindsight that just having a job wasn't it for me, you know.
Does it your stepping stone of like doing your own thing?
The jiu-jitsu brand was my stepping stone to doing real estate for sure.
That's awesome.
Because I sold the brand for a small amount of money, not that much, but I got addicted to growing that little egg of mine, that little nug.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm gonna buy property and flip it and it eventually became me doing real estate. But branding, like doing a clothing brand and building a business, that's hard. And you guys have been going since when?
2002. So this year was our 21st anniversary.
And so even further, to go that far, and congratulations, that's crazy. To do it with partners and to keep that going, that's also insane. Like, I think about Bear from Show Your Role, the way he's brought people that, you know, in his life with him. I think about like LeBron James, the way he's brought up his friends with him. For you guys to do that for 20 years, that's how do you do it?
You know, it's not easy, but luckily, like all of us, I think even when we disagree, we know that the end outcome is like for the better. So there's a lot of compromising and stuff, but for the most part, we get along super good, and the decisions we all make together usually is always aligned with each other because we kind of know what's our main North Star, our main goal that we want to do. So like every once in a while, like we might have a little like, oh, maybe change this or that, but where everybody's really flexible. You know?
Is it a lot of times when there's partners like that, it's easy to get into, well, at the beginning, you know, Ryan was doing X, but now Ryan doesn't do and represent as much of the work or whatever. Like, and with 4, even harder because, you've been traveling for 6 months, you're not even doing nothing, and you're still getting paid. Or like, do you guys have really strict business agreements that help, or is it just a culture thing because you guys love each other? Or how?
I think
I'm trying to learn from you. That's why. Cause
I think it was from the beginning. It's like we always just had that mutual respect for one another, regardless. From the beginning, we're brothers first.
Wow.
And then, just like anything, you know, we will disagree, but we just always get over it. And it's very rarely that we get into big disagreements.
Wow. That's lightning enough. That's like what makes sense that there aren't a lot of brands 20 years strong like your brand, because it's just so hard for that to happen.
I think a lot of us don't have too much egos too. I think
that helps.
When a lot of times when if you're a designer or whatever, like there's a lot, you know, some people just are so hard-headed and stuff. But I think for all of us, we're very understanding, and we can see everyone's goal and vision and try to put that into perspective first.
Did you ever watch the documentary on And1? The And1 basketball brand?
No. Actually, no, wait, I did.
You remember And1, right?
Yep.
Like, you know, street basketball thing. And eventually Nike came out and was like, oh, yeah, this whole, like, fancy crossover, like, we're going to dominate you.
Yeah.
But part of not only Nike smashing them, because maybe they could have cemented, like, and they're still in Walmart and things like that. So I guess the brand survived to some extent. But one of the things that happened was the relationship with one very important person went bad. It was the designer.
That's right.
The guy who like was responsible for the brand image and was kind of the creative genius. I forget what happened, but he got like offended or like whatever, the relationship went bad. And then simultaneously Nike came into that space and they were done. So it's probably what you guys do is hard. I've tried to do it, and I wouldn't say I failed, because there's no. I don't even like the word failure.
Yeah.
Because we do jujitsu, right? Or I
Yep.
used to. You still
Yep.
do. You get tapped out all the time. It's like it's growing.
Yep.
It's only failing if you
win
don't
or
learn.
you learn.
You win or you learn.
That's all.
So only if you
Yep.
quit, like I did.
Nah,
you quit jujitsu.
you still have that mindset.
Long
You know
break,
what I mean?
But I don't consider it failing. But what you guys do is, man, it's crazy.
Thank you.
That's crazy. So what is the vision? What's the goal with In4mation? Like,
So when we first started, it's kind of weird because I guess from when we first started to now, it's definitely changed, in a bit with everything. But
Yeah.
when we first started, we wanted the word In4mation, the brand name is, we wanted to inform people that there is clothes out there that you could get from all around the world besides shopping at your locals. No offense to any other surf shops. So when we worked in that retail environment, we knew that there's only Billabong, Quicksilver.
yeah.
When we would travel, we would go to LA, New York, Japan.
Especially
go to Hong
back
Kong.
then,
Yeah.
because like now you see some other brands
Yeah.
mixed in, but back then it was like 3 or 4. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, we grew up skating. How come we know that there's even more skate brands and stuff, but nobody's bringing it to Hawaii? So we wanted to bring like the cool streetwear brands from all over and then bring it to Hawaii, and it's kind of and just help inform people like there's other styles of clothing that you can get in Hawaii rather than just your basic,
Yeah.
surf shop stuff.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Frick. I miss it. I miss it was in my wife, we were close to divorce because of my like obsessiveness with the brand building thing. All I could think about was like, you just walk down the street and I'm looking at designs and positioning and colorways and what if that wasn't gray, and I got to talk to my graphic designer and see if we can do something similar. And our weekends were like kind of like the tap out story, like selling shirts out of your trunk. But I would set up a plastic table and put like a cloth over it and sell shirts. And I think it's maybe a young man's game to build something like that because you have time and
I
no
think when we're
kids
younger, when we're younger, you're a lot.
yeah.
You can work longer hours. You don't get tired.
Yeah.
That is kind of true.
It's fun. I remember Bear. So Bear told me, he's like, I think one of the hardest things in all of business is to build a clothing brand. And, of course, biased because that's what he's done.
Yeah.
But it's also true because people start out like, I can buy shirts and I get my cost down to $7 and then I'll sell them for $20 and $13. And if I sell 100, I make money.
Yeah.
And then that's okay for like side money for like, go buy food for the barbecue or whatever. But then when you start to try and scale it to a business and replace your job, it's hard. There's way more to it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think for us, like we had a lot of just kind of experience just working in a retail environment. So
Yeah.
we kind of at least knew that part.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Creating the brand, we're lucky to have a lot of really good friends and mentors in the industry that are older than us that kind of took us in and kind of helped kind of pave the way for us to like, you should look at this, maybe do it this way. Back then, and for a factory to make a hat was like rocket science for us.
And it's not now where you can go
On the
online.
internet,
There were no iPhones, right?
Yeah.
And the internet, what were we using? AOL. You probably had AIM back then, right?
Yep.
And so now everyone can source something from somewhere.
Super easy.
But it was hard, even for me. So T-shirt printing, I could figure it out.
Yeah.
But if I wanted hats or bags or jujitsu kimonos, people risked their lives to make jujitsu kimonos back in the 90s, 2000s. They'd have to fly to Pakistan and meet with someone and Taliban infested. On the Mat.
Yep.
Scotty, you ever met Scotty?
I've never met. I know who that. I've seen.
He's a wild guy, bro. Scotty's wild, but he said, bro, I almost died in Pakistan. He's like, I got to Pakistan. This is a Taliban ran village or whatever. I'm staying in a hotel, and they knew I was American. The town found out I was American, so there were people throwing stuff at the hotel or banging on it. I forget how the story went, but he said he was super scared. Met with the guy the next day and got out
Sketchy.
to establish
a connection.
Kimono production outside of China.
Yeah.
And so the way it goes, my understanding, Pakistan has better cotton. China can have some better, or used to have better sewing and machines that stuff.
Yeah.
And so you'd feel the difference, softer fabric from Pakistan and but rigid fabric. But China, you got to do scale. Like they want 1,000 kimonos or whatever. So if you're trying to start a brand and do 50, they weren't really about it.
But
so
Pakistan would be the guys.
but point is it's maybe easier now, but then the hard part now is it's more saturated because so many people are making brands now.
I think you have the access to all of that, to creating things now, as in before. It's like people before was like super, even their resources, they would barely share. So like if you had a good factory, like you would know. That's why like we're lucky that we had friends like, hey, talk to
I
this
was
guy
super like that, bro. I wouldn't tell anybody. I'm still a little
Well,
like that, to be honest.
But it's still like, I mean, you still got to code certain things that you know that helps you grow, and that's the one up that you can have on your competition, right?
Yeah.
So that's, I think, but before it was even like, nowadays it's like, I'll share whatever. But before I was like, no, I ain't going to tell you that.
Yeah, for sure.
Because like I said, making a hat was like rocket science. We'd get samples, we're like, this thing sucks.
Yeah.
Like, we spent all this money, and then, definitely a learning process through the years. And Todd would actually have to fly to China before. With the factories, don't know Chinese. Luckily, he had like a friend was up there, so had some right people. But yeah, Todd would be the recon guy to get factories for us before, and he would go fly up to China.
Yeah.
And Jun had some connections too when you go to like Indonesia and Bali and stuff too. But in the beginning, it was just trying to just figure it out.
Even a graphic designer back then.
Yep.
So like to get design, it was a more specialized thing. Like now I go to Fiverr and I have a couple really solid people I work with. But that was one of the things, like my graphic designer, he went to graphic design school. He's trying to work with me to like build his portfolio, but he was starting to graduate away from me, right? Or it was going to have to become more expensive.
Right.
And I didn't have stuff figured out, to scale to the next level.
Right.
So, yeah.
It's weird. Like all of us have different talents. So, we kind of grew into the business. I'm like the super like, I guess anal. I'm not OCD, but I like everything very organized.
Okay.
So when we started the business, I guess slowly my direction was like the director of operations, because everything was more like I wanted to be organized. Todd had really good like PR skills. He did marketing with his brands before, and then he also knew a lot of bit about production and things. Our other designer, Keith, came from like a graphic arts background from graffiti. Jun is like the rock star, so he knew a lot of people. He knew the marketing side. So like everybody had their own talents, and we kind of grew. I guess our positions in the company kind of grew from those talents, and we didn't know it at the time. Later on, like, oh, what is your title? I'm like, what do you mean title? You don't have a And then later on, now we do. We're like, I guess the director of operations, and you have like the production manager, you have the designer, and you have like the marketing, advertising. So in the beginning, it was like, we don't need
just young guys.
Yeah, we just do it all.
But I don't know if it would be rare to have both. It would be rare to have like, I run my business on the entrepreneurial operating system with a 10-year vision, and I do quarterly rock meetings. And I don't know if you ever read like EOS stuff. It's good books, if not like Rocket Fuel and Traction. I think it could help the business, or it's for someone in your position. It's a good read. But to have that and to have all the branding wherewithal and the energy to create the brand, those two people aren't the same usually. Like or at least not in the same stage of life. Like you can't be everything.
Yeah.
Maybe the rare Bezos or Steve Jobs. Yeah. But even in those books, it talks about Steve Jobs had Wozniak. Walt Disney had Roy Disney.
Right.
All these people, there's a visionary and an integrator, at least two, to make these big things work.
Yeah.
I would say two is necessary. 4 has more chance of failure, more convoluted. So it's even more impressive what you guys did.
Thank you. Yeah, I think, like I said, it's the main vision and the main goal. As long as we know that we head toward, and whatever we do with the right intention and doing it the best that we can, then we just have that North Star that we always like, that's our guideline, that's what we want to do. Because there's a lot of times, like even sometimes when you see like so much different changes in like design every time we're like, we wouldn't, like you see some of brands like changing their brand identity a little bit to get that market, which is totally cool and understandable.
It's hard not to let the industry dictate you,
exactly.
Right?
So you got to kind of stay true to what we want to see. And if you guys, then the people that get our stuff, they like it, thank you. If you guys don't, then it's cool. Like there's other brands out there for you, and it's super cool.
Yeah.
So
I fell victim to that in branding a bit. Shoyoroll, I mean, we were obviously super influenced by them.
Yep.
At the same time, I knew that there was some level of uniqueness that differentiated us, which is why we were able to start to close distance on them at some point. But I didn't have a clear brand. I didn't have it defined on paper clear enough, and I didn't stick to it. So I remember our first kimono run, our jiu-jitsu uniform, for those listening, we crushed. It was like it sent waves across Facebook in 2011 or whatever.
That's dope.
12 or whenever 13, whenever it was. And then the second, third one, like we had a couple misses because we went off of our brand identity. People were like, what is this? And I was like, frick, I was chasing shoyu roll too much, you know? And yeah, I get it.
But I seen the one with the Kamehameha head. Like
Yeah,
much
yeah.
people has that. Like,
Well, that one hit in Hawaii hard
Yeah.
and whatever. But then to some people in the mainland, they're like, what is this?
I didn't know who that. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
it's
like,
Kamehameha.
what is this? Yeah. So, what you said you're from Millani?
Yeah.
What, you grad Millani?
Yep.
Okay, what year?
92.
92.
Yeah.
Right.
Kind of old.
Yeah, I'm old too, and I'm starting to. It doesn't hurt to train.
Oh yeah.
So I'll be 39 in a couple weeks, and Pat's like, you got to get back into it. And
Yeah. You're right
I'm
there.
like,
You're brown
"Bruh,
belt.
I'm so.
You're so close to black. You
I'm
can't
purple.
stop.
I was probably gonna get my brown, and this is like taboo in jiu-jitsu to talk about when you're gonna get promoted or whatever. But the way my instructor in California did it is he had his first wave, his like day one or OGs, and he no matter if I was tapping them or whatever, they would get promoted and I would get promoted 6 months later. It was just that's how it was gonna happen, whether it was stripes, belts, always, and they all got their browns, all of them. And then in that 6 month period following, I fell off and I kind of quit. But now the game has changed so much. I feel like I should just be a blue belt because I don't know a lot of the like leg lock game and just the game's changed. But I'm sore, bro.
Oh, I'm
like
sore. I just turned 49 and my body is still.
I don't know.
It's sore.
I want to find like you know Jeff. I think it was Jeff Furuta. He used to teach Uptown, like Gracie Uptown. But they had a cool crew. It was like small vibe, like at a Hongwan G, mostly older guys.
Yep.
They like had like poke and beer after.
Oh,
Like,
that's
I want to
cool.
like find that. I don't know if I'm ready for like Trickster or like Jeremy guys, Pat guys.
It's good. The environment is super fun and super
Yeah.
family over there.
Is that where you train now? Or you?
Yep. At
Oh,
Trickster,
okay.
yep.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Where do you live?
In
Manila.
YPO Gentry.
Oh, not too bad.
Yeah.
Because yeah.
Close by, but not too close. Millani would be the end goal for sure, but
Yeah. Yeah. I think if I would probably go Trickster if I started training again, but it's just far. Like I live in Millani.
it's 20 minutes. It's so fast.
Yeah, I guess 20 minutes.
It's 15 if you no traffic.
Not from Millani, for
Millani, I
real.
promise. It's so fast. You get off at that exit by Target, you're right there.
And then you go into the industrial area.
Super cool.
Yeah. Jeremy's an impressive guy.
Yeah.
I think we were connected probably from like our blue belt days, and he just stayed committed to the game, and he's one of Hawaii's best.
Yeah.
You know?
Humble
Yeah.
and he's so good. He's
Yeah.
so good.
If
Such
you
a
guys,
good teacher.
if people don't know Jeremy, he's the guy you see on the news that puts the Christmas tree on the top of Coco Head every year.
Yeah.
And a killer black belt. Pat scares me. Pat's such a cool guy, and we'll talk, and I'll be like, oh, you know the kind of yeah, super good guy, super good jiu-jitsu. I tore his knee.
Yeah.
Like I ripped his ankle off. I'm like, oh, bro. So, yeah, maybe I'll come back train with you guys.
Should.
Yeah.
And
we'll see.
everybody's so welcoming over there. Everybody's super cool.
What did you go to like college? What were you gonna? How old were you in this whole information thing?
So I think when I think we started information when I was 28.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, so in the lead up to that,
Uh,
were you like, I gotta? Because when I was, my parents were like, learn a trade,
Yeah.
go to college, or join the military. There's only 3 options I knew.
That's cool.
If my dad was maybe more entrepreneurial, I was like, you're not employable. You should start a business and learn business. Maybe I would have done it sooner, you know.
Yeah.
But I was trying to put a square peg in a round hole for a long time,
Yeah.
being an employee. What was your mindset from that decade from 18 to 28? Was it I'm supposed to go to college? I'm supposed to get a good job, be a good citizen?
Yeah.
Like, not that you weren't, but you know what I mean. Traditional route.
Being a young skater kid growing up, I was a dumbass. Like even went to college. I went to Leeward for, I think 2 years first.
How many credits in 2 years?
I think 5, 6. So bad.
Me too. Yeah, I
it's
went
so
4
bad.
semesters.
Yeah.
6, I think 2 classes I
It
passed.
took me 4 years to get my AA, which usually is supposed to take 2. Right?
yeah.
So after I got that, I didn't know what the hell I was gonna do. I
Yeah.
should go back to school. I didn't know. So I went on a trip. I went snowboarding in
Okay.
Canada for about almost a month.
Wow.
So I just went snowboarding. And I
How'd you
came-
afford that?
I was a dumbass and I used my credit card. I was like, oh, I got some graduation money. I'll just go snowboard a little bit and I'll pay it back later.
Okay.
Not the brightest idea when I was younger. Come back, I was like, you know what? I kind of enjoyed that. Love skateboarding, snowboarding. I used to snowboard almost every springtime, go like 2-3 times a year. So I was like, okay, you know what? I wouldn't mind doing something snowboarding. So randomly, I just called that place Headside Snowboards. I was like, hey, are you guys hiring?
That was the other snowboard shop?
Yeah.
Oh,
And
that
they're
was the
like-
one going to Japan? Like sending stuff
Yeah.
to Oh,
and they were like,
okay.
yeah, we are actually. And I was like, oh, cool. I started out as a salesperson over there. And then some of the products they're bringing in, I was like, how come you guys bring this? You guys should bring these brands because these are the cooler brands. And they were a
yeah.
little bit older and they're like, oh, do you think you can get these brands? I'm like, I don't know. How do you guys usually get your other brands? I was like, oh, we'll send you, there's a trade show. So like, how about we send you up with the other buyer? And then
How old are you at this time?
I think I was like 24.
Okay.
Yeah,
And-
23,
okay.
24.
So you had an eye, and they're like, now as a business owner, you can maybe understand their books. Because to me, when that kind of stuff happened to me, I'm like, bro, you can pay for me to go to the mainland, but you know they have expenses, top line
Yeah.
revenue, bottom. Like it made sense for them
Yeah.
to send you to this show, right?
And I think too, what kind of helped was a little bit younger. If you're Japanese at that time, if you went to the shows, they would be scared to sell to you because they knew about the gray market. They're like, oh, you're a Japanese in America that's having a shop. You guys might be sending some product to Japan.
Oh, really?
So being a local, like a Hawaii, and being a little bit younger that knew the kind of like the industry a little bit better,
Yeah.
more on the skate side. I was
Well,
a
you're
bit-
Japanese, but it was like you're American, Hawaiian,
Yeah, like
Japanese.
local,
so
yeah,
they
yeah.
didn't fear you the
because
same
my
way.
boss was like Japanese accent.
Japanese, yeah. Oh, okay.
So that's how kind of it led me into being first like just a regular salesperson, then being a buyer, and then a little bit later on I'm bringing a manager.
So you just lived the free spirit, and then just one thing led to another.
It just so luckily happened, and from there I learned the experiences. Brought in my friends that had like Todd. When at one point the snowboarding slowed down, so we had to figure out something. So my boss was like, hey, we need to do something. And my other friend's like, hey, you should talk to Todd. He's super smart. He's doing a huge thing with DJs. In Hawaii, he was one of the first like people to bring on like Hubert, Invisible Scratch Pickles, like all of these big time DJs. And when we started teaming up, we kind of made that snowboard shop into more of a skateboard street shop. And so that's
Yeah.
how we kind of
Makes
crossed
sense.
over. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then from there, that was basically the kind of like the guidelines and like the layout foundation of what In4mation was today was kind of started from that time.
So you're at this time you're no longer thinking, and the reason what I'm leading to in these questions is on this podcast, I'm like, what is the vision for this podcast? And I don't have it entirely defined, but one thing I always think about is my experience as a kid, not knowing what I wanted to do, not really having anyone else besides my dad saying military, trade, or college,
Yep.
which he even know what college equate to. He had no idea, but his generation, he's
That's
born
what
in
he did,
44,
right?
he's go to college,
Yep.
right? At this time, while you're like going to some trade shows, like leveling up in this apparel, textile industry, are you ever thinking like, I gotta go finish my bachelor's, or
Never came across my mind.
Never crossed your
No.
mind?
I was like, I guess I'm going to do this until I just try to see how long I can do it.
Yeah.
And then see from there, I can try to figure it out.
wow?
My parents were super cool. I mean, I lived with my parents all the way until like my mid 30s. You know, they were super cool.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
being in Hawaii, they're like, well, pretty soon you got to move out, but you know,
Yeah,
try
yeah.
to figure out your shit now and then
Wow.
later on. So my parents were really supportive. They
Wow.
they know I'm like, but same thing. It's like, you know, you got to either be going to school or you got to be working.
Right,
You can't
right.
do. You got to figure it out.
They never charge you rent.
They did a little.
Yeah,
Super
my parents
good.
started charge. They were like, you go to college. If you pass, you live here for free, and we'll pay for your school.
Yeah.
If you don't, you got to get a job. You got to pay rent. And my dad like knew. He's like, you can be paying rent
Right.
by the end of the semester.
Yeah.
So like I don't know if I dropped out of LCC in time to get the, what is there in Mike? There's something in college, right? Like you get instead of getting F, you get did not complete, or like if you drop out early enough, something like that.
Yeah.
So, what is it called?
I don't know, but normally you get refunded for that course as well. Like
Yeah.
You drop the class.
Yeah, so I think if you drop it early enough, you get refunded. There's another phase where you'll get like not a negative mark.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's just you lost your money and your grade and your GPA suffered.
I had a academic suspension for a semester. And during that semester, all I did was just skate and snowboard and surf and party. And I got all of that out of my system after that one whole semester.
So what do you think about that? Because what I was getting to earlier, and either one of you, like, bring me back to track. Like, hey, you were talking about something else, because that's what I do. I'm scattered. But and one of the things I see in this podcast is, obviously, because I'm, almost 40, a lot of not kids are going to listen to this. Hopefully a lot of younger people, 18 to 24, listen to it too. But I want to empower local kids to be entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
I almost got kicked out of Campbell. Campbell's a bad school can be a bad school, whatever. I'm not on my real estate podcast, so I can say whatever.
Yeah.
But Campbell is scary at times.
Oh, yeah.
You grew up Hawaii. You know the reputation that Campbell may have
A lot of
had.
my friends are from Campbell.
And so, there's people,
There's a little, back in the day in your guys' time, it was a little bit more hood. It was a lot more tougher.
It was, there were some more. They would shut, there was like, Wednesday was the day you'd have huge scraps, because it was like, Wednesdays in Hawaii, you get out early.
Yep.
And then the way the
12
two lunches plus the long recess that would happen, you'd have like 2 hours of guys just cruising, and that's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
And so I remember scraps on on Wednesday, they shut down the school. Don't come back till Monday, the whole school, because the tension's too bad. Let everyone cool down. That's how, and like cops on the news. That's what Campbell was back then.
Yeah.
And so my point is, so much going on at Campbell. And they kicked me out just because I don't listen in class and I'm disruptive. They were like, he's so smart. He could be a 4.0 student, but he just won't shut up. He always cracking jokes. I didn't cut because my dad's old school. If I cut school or whatever, he'd send me back to the mainland. Because my mom, I was born on the mainland and my mom lived in Florida. So he always had that on me. Let me send you back to Florida. Yeah. And so I didn't cut. I didn't do a lot of stuff. But it was obvious in hindsight that I wasn't made for the straight path.
Yeah.
And I just want to send that message to more local kids, right?
Yeah.
You be entrepreneurial, but it's probably not a wise message for us to say, go put snowboarding trips on your credit card.
Yeah.
Go pay for LCC and drop you don't necessarily do that, right?
Yeah. I think it's more of like finding out what you'd like.
Yeah.
And like everybody says, it's always played out, but you hear somebody like follow your passion. That's kind of true. Like if you fall in love with something, but you just got to figure out that one way to like, if this is what you really want to do, how are you going to figure out like what you love and how from there you can make money from it?
I think
that's the hardest transition.
Jay-Z said, who's on an Instagram meme or what is it, Instagram reel? It's like, the dream is not to be successful and famous. The dream is to, if you're given a God-given talent, to live and live through that. To be in that, live through it. And so if you love branding, if you love money, you love building wealth. So I love building wealth, and then building lives is actually kind of secondary. But a lot of realtors, they're like building lives, building homes. If you have to put one in front of the other, I look at building wealth first. Yeah. And building homes, that's up to that's you and your wife's job or your husband's job. Like, you guys build a life. Yeah. I'll help you build the wealth. And so, I think, but it took me until mid-30s to figure that out. I was 34, 35 when I started figuring this out. Before that, almost kicked out of Campbell for just 3 teachers got together. They hooeyed, and they were recommending to my parents to send me to some alternative school. Wow. And basically, I was just irritating them. But this one teacher, she stood up, and my dad will tell me this story to this day. He's like, if Miss Strewing wasn't there to save you, you were out of Campbell. Wow. You're going to be out of Campbell. All the drug dealers are still there, right?
It's just a kid that just makes jokes in class and trying to kick them out.
Which I get it. I was difficult to deal with, but
I think too,
how do we send that message to local kids, or even local 20-somethings, young adults, local 30-somethings? Because people would say, you're a business guy. Why are you getting your X-ray degree? Because that's what I did in between Coast Guard and real estate. I sold my jiu-jitsu brand midway after I got my X-ray degree. I started being an X-ray tech at Stanford Children's. I loved it because I'm an intense guy, so I loved helping sick kids. Like the mission made sense to me. Like if I'm going to be away from my family to help kids with cancer, it makes sense to me. Right. So it was a bigger than me, and I enjoyed that. But I sold my business, tried to follow the straight path. How do we send the message to 20-something, 30-somethings, 40-somethings without being reckless? Because it can also, some people don't just
stop what you're doing and just go
don't
out and
just
try
load
to
your credit cards up. Like you hear those success stories, but that can also push you into bankruptcy.
Yeah, I think there's, it's just finding that balance, but I think it's taking that first leap. You're not gonna know what you're capable of until you do it. And like you said, it's like you can look at it 2 ways. You can either do it and you're gonna figure it out along the way, or you might, even if you fail, you're still learning. So you might later on put it on hold and then come back to that later on. That's another thing. But it's just, I think the younger generation now are a lot more willing to take that little bit of that risk. I think our generation, like you said, like our parents are like, yeah, you sure you want to do that?
We
the
had
traditional
like
path
World War II parents.
Yeah,
right? Like,
you either go to school, get a trade, go to military, because that was safe, and you stay at that job
you
forever.
get a retirement.
Yeah,
you get a government benefits, whatever, right?
Yeah, and that's super good, But if as you get older and you learn about yourself, like you don't, something you said, you don't fit in that.
Yeah,
you're that circles in a square peg. You can't fit that. So,
do you think you have to be obsessive? So, entrepreneurship, business building, anything, to experience failure, rejection, now quote unquote failure, right?
Yeah.
To experience these things, it's painful, it's hard, and as a human, we have defense mechanisms. Like you just don't do that thing that is that painful and hard.
Right.
I was just obsessive. Like people would say, "Oh, you're a business guy. Why are you becoming an X-ray tech?" And I was like, "I'm not a business person." Like they saw me that way, but I didn't. I was so obsessive. I worked building a jiu-jitsu brand for years and years and years, making no money. And so my wife's like, "Why are you doing this with our time?"
Right.
But other people are like, "Why aren't you doing more of this?"
Right.
I feel like, and I see people join real estate, and the failure rate in real estate is almost 90% of people fail out of the industry in the first 5 years.
Wow.
And I think in this competitive sales industry, whatever, you got to be, to experience that kind of pain, rejection, to have to get through that kind of growth, you have to be obsessive.
Yeah.
Occasionally, you find someone like my guy Aiden in there, whatever, who's just not as obsessive in the same way, but will commit to the slow learning process. Do you think to be entrepreneurial and to do what you do, you got to be kind of crazy?
I think you got to be resilient.
Resilient, yeah.
I think that's
you ever look at the DISC profile, DISC personalities? You ever heard of that?
No.
So like there's like DISC. So D is dominant. It's like just a really driven person. I is like influential, like talkative, Mr. Aloha. S is secure, so like more employee type.
Yeah. And
then C is compliance. Think of like your accountant, your pilot who like checks all the things and checklists.
Yeah.
A lot of entrepreneurs are DI. And like they say only 4% of the population is DI, dominant, and then personable second.
Right.
So there's like obsessive type A people. And a lot of entrepreneurs are, because they're unemployable. And a lot of entrepreneurs you hear say that. They're like, I get fired from my jobs.
Just didn't fit. Yeah.
You don't seem to be that type, though. Like, you probably could have got a job and existed and got to your pension at age 65.
Yeah. But I don't know if I would be happy. I don't know. Even right before we were making information, I worked at the state capitol.
Oh, you did?
At the Senate clerk
office. So you had like
I had a regular
old job?
Yeah. For a little while.
How was it?
It was cool. It was super. It's definitely a lot easier than owning your own business. You got to, for that job, you just show up, do your work, and I left.
And tell you what to do.
The craziest part is like everybody's so laid back. Like I don't know if it's maybe the way I got brought up, but it's always like, you got to be doing something. So it'd always be working. And the guys were like, hey, slow down, dude. Like,
Yeah, this is state work.
yeah. It's like,
Stop.
bro, just chill. Just take a 2-hour lunch break. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
So it was so different. Like,
Oh, okay.
and I think for us, like, we always, I think especially for Todd and myself, when we started, it's like we always felt like we had a boss looking over our shoulder, even though we're the owners. We always had that mentality of somebody like checking your shit all the time. Hey, what you doing? Like, why aren't you doing this? Like,
Has Todd ever had? Which guy is he? Is he the surfer guy?
Todd is he does like the production. He actually lives in Vegas.
Oh, he lives in Vegas now.
Yeah,
is he? Did he ever have like a regular job,
Yep.
or is
So he worked at a lot of retail jobs, like like a Town and Country, HIC. He was one of the managers at Borders.
Oh, okay.
So he even had managerial background too.
Okay.
So even Keith came from Local Motion. He was an assistant manager. He was a sponsored skater as well. So like definitely had like a lot of the retail parts at least a little bit figured out when we first started. Not too much, but a little bit.
I joined the Coast Guard at 21. I turned 22 in boot camp, and it was just, I was like, I know I gotta do something. I don't know what ambition I have. I just know I see more for myself, and I was like, that seems like a thing to do. Because my dad was military, trade, and I didn't want to work construction. Now I regret it, because
you make bank
with the business acumen I have now. To if I like one of my wealthiest friends, maybe my wealthiest. I moved back home, reunited with these high school friends, and this guy's a painter. And he never really posts too much, more introverted, more humble. And I started to learn about his business, and I'm like, bruh,
killing it.
You whole like 7-8 properties, half of them paid off. It's like passive income in the 5 figures. Like I was like, painter. He like dropped out of college, learned painting. Started doing side jobs, scaled up, hired one guy, hired more guys. Now he does commercial painting. And I kind of regret not learning a trade, because maybe I would have, same thing, like had to get out of just working for people to paint or whatever, and I would have made my own business, right? Yeah. But I was just like, nah, I'm not going to work in this, because I lived at a beach too. And so it's hot, I was like, there's no way I'm working in the sun in Hawaii for the rest of my life.
It's hot.
And so, I joined the Coast Guard, got jobs. I worked at Stanford, and I wasn't entirely unemployable, but it was apparent in each department, in each progression I made, like I was not a 20-year guy.
Right.
I could come, make my impact, get really skilled, but I was going to either get fired or quit. Like it wasn't going to be a forever, because I would get so bored.
Yeah.
And I wish for more people. I just think of local kids trying to put themselves in the wrong hole, square peg, wrong hole, and I just want to, I don't know, send them messages.
I think it's just taking that step. Like you never know until you do it. Like there's a lot of people like, oh, should I? They even ask me like, oh, do you think I should do that? I was like, yeah, go for it. But you gotta just, like you said, you have to be. You can be optimistic, but you also have to be realistic. You have to know that there is a point to where, are you just spinning your wheels, right? You gotta know when. Well, not to call it quits, but you gotta look at the overall picture and kind of decide for yourself. Is it worth it to do it that much more longer, or how much more can you hold out for that?
You mentioned the younger generation. I think maybe they get infatuated with like I'm gonna be a YouTube star. I'm gonna be like infatuated with the result. And here I am, almost 40. I'm kind of a YouTube local guy, whatever. And we make most of our money, a lot of our money from YouTube. But be committed to the growth and not just the results, the accolades. So I think younger people, if they can get around mentors. So if In4mation if you say, hey, I'll work for free for 6 months as an intern, can I just be around you guys? You should. If a real estate team you believe in will allow you to be working with that real estate team for 6 months, just doing anything and everything, and you're young, you should do that. But everyone wants the result. And that's why people fail out of real estate so quick, because they're like, oh, can sell houses, make money. And it's like,
there's more of a grind to it than that. Yeah.
The sales process is know, like, trust, and be in flow with people. So people might know you, people might like you, but why should they trust you? So people want to get into this industry and not become experts at their craft. And that's why they feel bad when, oh, bro, I know Ryan good, but he didn't use me to sell his house. It's like, well, why should he? Because it's a big investment. There's tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars at stake if you make a mistake, or you don't negotiate right, or you don't time it right, or whatever. And I think being committed to the growth. So some people have a more poised personality, I think, like you, and take the steps and are committed to the growth in a more poised way. A lot of entrepreneurs are like me, where they just fail out of other things or just obsess out of other things, and they have to be in business because employee life is
just not the path.
Won't work. It just took me too long. So I guess I would invite young people or middle-aged people to commit to the growth sooner.
Yeah, and I don't think it's like you're never too late or too old. Like you'll figure it out. I think timing is something that it's like it happens for a reason. Yeah. You know what I mean? So regardless if you get it when you're younger or a little bit older, if you can catch it and you figure it out, then it's still good.
Yeah.
Of course, the lifespan was like to enjoy certain things maybe might be a little bit more different, but
and the more you show up, the luckier you get, right?
Yep.
So it may be that you find, and relationships matter. So like you might find those right partners in your 20s. It might be in your 30s.
Yep.
It might be in your 40s. The thing in your 20s will help your 30s, like me, right? I did the branding in my 20s, early 30s, sold, got back into business mid 30s. And, my first real estate mentor, he was like, what are your weaknesses? And I'm like, I'm obsessive. If there's a topic that comes up that I know about or I'm passionate about, I'll like accidentally dominate the conversation and feel bad. I'm this, I'm that, I'm this, I'm that. And he was like, but what are your weaknesses? And I was like, those aren't like.
But those are good weaknesses, though,
that's
right?
why they were gonna kick me out of Campbell.
Yeah.
That's why, in the Coast Guard, I didn't maybe thrive as much. And he's like, those are not weaknesses in the business world.
Yeah.
First person ever told me that.
Yeah.
I'm 35. 34 maybe? No, I think I was 34. I'm gonna turn 35 in like 2 months. First person ever told me that.
Yeah.
And so I just want to tell more kids that, or more adults that, like go for it, go for the growth.
Yeah. And like you said, like the generation sometimes is like when you look at Instagram, they see the, like, oh, whatever, like the end product of all the cool things. But you got to know that there's a lot of work leading up to that. Like exactly like your podcast. Like, we're talking story, but dude, there's a lot of editing, shooting, the time,
so much,
knowing how to like market it and put it out there. Like there's so much other stuff that a lot of people just see the end results. They don't know how long and how hard it is to put in all the other back work.
Yeah.
You got to put in the work to get to wherever you want to be.
Yeah. So you either got to be poised and understand that, kind of more like you or my guy Aiden in there, whatever. And or if you're obsessive and destructive, know that if you can figure that crap out, you could maybe do something great one day. Don't let it entirely kill your self-worth. I think that's what happens with kids like me or adults like me is like, they go work at the state office and it's not a fit. And then society, teachers, bosses, managers, Coast Guard leaders are telling you you're a bad person. You don't fit. You don't fit. You don't fit. It's like, you don't fit there.
Yeah. I think now, like, maybe the people like maybe around our age, since we kind of know that we're able to, like, that are the teachers now. The teachers kind of
it's better.
It's
better.
It's compared to back in the day when we were going to go to school. They're a little bit more cooler. Like, no, you could do this. You just gotta,
Mahi and I joke around about like your cliche, stereotypical, like old Japanese teacher.
Yeah.
Like, shut up. Do your homework. Do more homework. And that's when I came to Hawaii. I kind of had that. Like I remember Mrs. Wakabayashi at Irima, and she would be like, you be quiet, do your work, or whatever, like in Irima, And I live in Millani, Mauka, like 9 out of 10 elementary school, and my wife loves it. She was a teacher, not entrepreneurial, just wants a job and to be left alone, and that's beautiful that she knows that. But sometimes, like I went to my parent-teacher conference for my youngest, and she's like, Dane doesn't always like listen. And I'm like, bro, he's 5. Like,
you're supposed to be not listening by your attention span.
But Mrs., I won't say it, but like, very Japanese teacher, Millani Mauka.
Yeah.
Half of them went to private school. Half of them went to like Puno, Iolani, Kamehameha, Marino.
Yeah.
And she's like really quickly, I think she kind of felt me out, like he's not a traditional parent or something, because I was like, well, is it normal that a 5-year-old boy would like pay attention at 8:30 after the bell rings? And she was like, no, but Derek, he needs to pay attention. Like I was like, yeah, you're not my teacher. In fact, I hate you guys. And so, I give my kids some grace on that stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
because we were that kid.
Yeah.
We were definitely that kid.
It's not normal to sit down and shut up.
It's
For
hard.
5-year-old boy, you're supposed to be like jumping off of stuff.
Oh, yeah. Exactly.
Like in a village, you not sit down and shut up at 5 years old for 6 hours a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. Like, I don't have kids, but I know like if I did, that'd be like the one. I'd be like, that's me when I was young. Like, hard to pay attention because you just want to think of doing other fun stuff.
Yeah. When I go for every year, I think I'm gonna build a reputation, or I already have. Maybe I had the reputation from my older boy, and they weren't. But my first thing with I tell the teachers in like the beginning of the year, I'm like, I don't think about school the same way. I don't think kids should sit down and shut up. They almost kicked me out of school for no good reason. Like,
you just lay it down there right in the beginning. You're like,
oh,
okay.
Like, oh, here we go.
You're one of those
One
parents.
of these, yeah. Okay, well, let's close it up on some. I didn't even inform it because this is one of the first podcasts I was thinking about. Like, I'd have like a lightning round of questions at the end, but we'll do some Hawaii stuff. So let's do some Hawaii name drops. I know we know some of the same people.
Okay.
So, Pat Stachel, Jeremy, a lot of jiu-jitsu people.
Yeah.
I think you know Nick Mita.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's a real estate guy too.
Yeah. Oh, insurance.
Insurance. That's right. Sorry.
So
Nick.
he's like my brother-in-law's brother-in-law. So I just like my brother-in-law,
Yep.
but
Ripper surfer too.
good surfer.
Super
Yeah.
good surfer.
Insurance. So hit up Nick for insurance. He posted. You guys did the UH information. I was like, bro, where you got that? He's like, oh, my friends from information. Who else we probably know? 92 Millani. They're a little older, but the brothers are your age. Rachel Daventura. These are like YPO Gulch, like behind 24-Hour Fitness.
So bad.
Yeah.
What year did you grad?
02. You said you know people from Campbell, but they're probably older than me. Yeah.
Yeah.
What else do you guys sponsor? Like surfers, skaters.
Yep.
Who else do you guys sponsor?
So we have
Or have you sponsor?
Jeez. So we've had from like a lot of pro skaters from before. We had like Jamie Reyes, Spencer Fujimoto. We have young guys like Tama Shimabukuro. We have like that's just a skate.
How about surfers?
Jun has like a lot of Kaito, Kino. I'm so bad. We had Alex Pendleton, Macy Mullen. You might know.
He surf
too.
barbers, or we
Yep.
go surfing,
Yep.
and then
he's training too. So
he does jiu-jitsu too now.
Yep.
Yeah.
So there's like, and the cool thing is like, we sponsor like people, but we definitely sponsor a lot of friends. And even at one point, like even some of our friends that were like really big pro surfers, and at certain times they didn't have like a sponsor. We're like, hey dude, we'll sponsor you. We'll just give you clothes. If a bigger company comes in, wants to pay you, just go. Because that's we want to do that. Like we know that we're just we're just a local company. We're still not
like you
really
guys are unlikely to get Kelly or John.
Yeah.
Like that's not your goal, right?
But if we can be a stepping stone for somebody, and then if they need to jump later on, it's like totally cool. Because we know that there's other companies out there that has way deeper pockets that can pay for your pro thing.
That was one of the things I never really figured out, and I didn't enjoy when I had the brand of sponsoring people.
Yeah.
I enjoy I grew up at Campbell with a group of good surfers. Like I was around sponsored people, and the idea of it all was cool to me.
Cool, yeah.
But then when I'm looking at my revenue and not making much money, but I need to sponsor athletes, how do you measure the ROI on that? Or is it just I don't really know. Like we're profitable and those are our friends, so we give them shirts.
The ROI is definitely it's not too much, right? You got to put it into that category of more marketing.
Yeah,
right?
But how do you if you pay for impressions on Facebook or a magazine, you have some idea of your spend,
right?
When you're giving an athlete like 30 kimonos a year, and you're like I would try to do things like give them a code so I could see, like give them a discount code so if people, their friends ordered, I could see the return or whatever.
Right.
But it was just never. And then athletes are like kind of like entrepreneurs. Like they're like, wow,
they're their own brand.
Your business is your thing.
Yeah.
Give me the kimonos and let me go win tournaments. or give me the surfboards and let me go surf.
Yeah.
So I never figured that out. Like, how do you approach that?
I think it's a little bit different. So pretty much all of us, when we were grew up, I got sponsored when I was 16 for skateboarding.
Oh, yeah?
Keith got sponsored, I think, like right out of high school. June was like a prodigy surfer. He was winning like pro contests when he was like, I think, like 16, 17.
Oh, wow.
But he's like Japan national champion.
What
like,
is his last
2
name?
years- Joe.
Joe.
Yeah.
Is that Nick probably knows him well?
Yeah. So June's part of like the Kelly Slater crew. Like that's all of his boys, like all of
Oh,
those
yeah.
dudes. But like, I think having to be sponsored before we kind of knew how it works. Of course, now it's a lot different. Now, if he's like, oh, we'll flow you some clothes. Do you think you can like kick us back maybe some clips on
Yeah.
Instagram and tag us? So there's a little bit more something you can kind of tether it to a little bit more than before. It was just here you go, here's the clothes. You wear it at the contest.
Yeah.
You wear it out. If you get magazine coverage, we'll pay you if you get the cover. But it's a little different from back then till now. But it's basically you are taking a loss. You're just using, and that was like. That's basically like your influencer, right?
Yeah. So
the kids are going to be looking up to them. And so even the people that we do sponsor, it's like people that are like your everyday working guy or somebody that's super cool. Just vibe out. You don't need to be the most ripping guy. You know what I mean? Well, of course, that helps. Yeah. But if you rip and you have a super rad personality, you vibe out with everybody and you're just a good person, like, yeah, we're down to hook you up.
Yeah.
Of course, we got to vibe out to you. But
that's a Hawaii thing too. Right? Hawaii people want free stuff. Like,
everybody loves free stuff.
I mean, everyone loves free stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
But it's like when I was doing my brand, my mainland friends would be like, "Oh, let me buy a shirt."
Yeah.
My Chamorro and Hawaiian friends would be like, "Bro, hook it up."
Yeah.
Because like that's just local style, right?
Yeah.
And I remember some of my Chamorro friends being mad because I was like, "Bro, I'm trying to like turn a profit."
Yeah.
Like,
I gotta make money to buy to make the next run.
I was like, "Can you buy it at cost?"
Yeah.
Like, can you just buy it at cost? And they were just like, "I'll take you out to a dinner that's 10 times more expensive and pay for you, Derek, but give me the shirt for free." Because that's just how it, that's just the feel, right?
Yeah.
So now I do things like, bruh, my other friend, his name's Derek too. Like, you want a free shirt? And then, but I know he'll like catch me beers. And so I'll just move the $7 into the account. And I would try to account for it. And I don't know, maybe because I was born on the mainland, I was just a little less into that. I would be like, bruh, support my business, like.
I think the older we got, like before when we're younger, I think you get jaded, especially when you're sponsored. You'd be like, you're getting free shit all the time. Yeah. So it's like, oh, I should be getting free stuff. So after a while, when you get older, you're like, dude, let me buy it. Yeah. I want to support you. Like now it's like, oh, we'll hook you up. No, dude, like you have a business. Yeah. I want to support it.
For sure.
Right.
Yeah.
It's different when you get older and you have a little bit of money. That when you're
broke,
when you're broke and you're a kid, hell yeah, hook me up. But when you get a little bit older, you're like, dude, I'll thank you for supporting me. I want to support you.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Favorite place to eat in Hawaii? What's your favorite restaurant?
Right now, I've been hitting up Dell's Kitchen and Bakery all the time.
Where's that?
It's in Macaulay.
Dell's.
So
Dell's. I have to check it out.
Yeah. So Dell's also a black belt. He's at Mono.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, the Mono Gym.
Yeah. And then he also has a restaurant called Vane in Kakako.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Super good food.
And he owns Mono.
No, he trains there.
Oh, he trains
he's one
at
of the
Mono.
black belt. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Super good,
that's
dude.
Cool.
Food is super good. Yeah.
I've seen Vane a bunch. I never went there. I have to go. Shout out to, what is his name? His name is Del.
Yep.
What's his last name?
Valdez.
Del Valdez.
Yep.
Vane and Del's in Macaulay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Super good.
Favorite Hawaii band or music? Like,
It's funny because I never grew up on I was never really fully like Hawaiian music like growing up.
Yeah,
but I think now probably Makaha Sons and Ihau.
Really?
Because my mom and them would listen to that all the time when I was younger. So when I listen to that, I feel like I'm a little kid and stuff.
There's you probably know Bobby Higa, yeah?
Yep.
I never actually met Bobby, but he helped with that. Actually, I think he did that Kamehameha Jiu-Jitsu design for me.
Oh yeah, he's a super good.
I think he did it, and then someone else refined. My guy refined it.
Dope.
But and I think even too we had like a little disagreement. It's all on me because I wasn't as mature and business oriented, and I don't even remember what it was. But solid guy. Shout out to Vertra, the sunscreen.
Yep.
We featured on our YouTube channel too recently. But
Jun's part of that.
June Sparta Virtua.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So I support Virtua. We put it on our YouTube channel a couple times. And
Super good.
I had Jason Chibata give us like a surf lesson for our
I
last
seen
video.
that. Yeah, I seen that one.
And he was like, "Here's some Virtua," and I'm like, "It's free stuff. I'm stoked. Like I can afford choke Virtua."
Yeah.
But he gave us free Virtua, and I'm like, "Oh, brah, Virtua."
But those are expensive sunscreen, right?
Yeah,
Those are good.
But it's just, it's just cool to get it.
Yeah.
And to get it from like a guy like Jason, like
Yeah.
pro surfer,
Yeah.
So Bobby, when I think of Makaha-sans, I always think of him. I knew of this event, but Bobby puts out like very introspective Instagram posts and stuff, and he'll like tell like a story of this moment in Hawaii. And that time when like Brada was towards the end of life, and he did his last performance at the Hoku Hano Hano Awards.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess Makaha-sans and they weren't talking, and the Makaha-sans came on stage.
Yeah.
And then they
played that song. Yeah,
it was a Ku'u Morning
I
Dew.
can't remember, but I remember. I think
Or
I've
Kaleo
seen that.
Hano. It was Kaleo Hano.
I seen that clip that you're talking about, and
And
they're all crying
And they're crying, and then they like they hash it out right there.
Yeah.
Like they bury it right there.
Yep.
I'll watch that right now and cry.
Yeah.
Like it's just in the way he described it. Bobby has a knack for that. He like describes moments in Hawaii history in a unique way.
Yeah, good storyteller.
Yeah.
I think that translates to like his design and his like the way he sees stuff.
Yeah. I gotta have him on here
Super
too.
talented guy.
Yeah.
Really talented.
I don't even know him, but I just feel like I admire him in a certain way from his posts, from his work, his designs, Virtua.
He's OG. Like he's done so much stuff in the surf industry, snowboard industry, skate industry. Like he's kind of low key, but he's very talented.
I think the RVC Aloha, RVCA Aloha, like the Ruka Aloha thing, he's responsible. Like he designed that.
Yeah.
He designed
a lot of stuff.
a lot of cool stuff
that you see like you
and you don't. Yeah, you wouldn't know. Yeah. Okay, so restaurant, music, favorite Hawaii brand, obviously In4mation. If you had to, let's close it on this. If a message to Hawaii, just positive, whether it's aloha,
definitely
advice for young guys, advice for like what?
Hawaii.
Send a message to Hawaii because this, we're podcasting. It'll live forever.
Well, Hawaii definitely got to keep that aloha spirit, and some ways down the line later on, hopefully, people can figure out like how real Hawaii like locals can be able to live in Hawaii and afford it. It just sucks when you see like a lot of people that have to bounce out of Hawaii, but it's like people like you kind of help bring that aspect for, especially for the real estate league, try to help figure them out to like at least stay here, and that's. I know that's probably the toughest thing. You don't want to have, not say you don't want to have, but you want to have like people that come here and to live, but you want to still keep as much Hawaii people here.
We have to reconcile that. And because we have an or we have a YouTube channel, and a ton of local people watch it.
Yeah.
We go restaurants here, whatever, they'll notice my partner and Mahe and I, but also a lot of mainland people. Like it's relocation real estate, and that's always been a thing, and it's a thing in every city, relocation real estate. But now that it's out there, it's YouTube, and we kill it in relocation.
Yeah.
We get heat from local people like, bro, you guys selling, like Hawaiians be like, you selling the land and whatever, and I get it. I don't even like the idea of owning land. I like the idea of being a steward to land.
Yeah.
But if I put my wealth building cap on, you title and deed to the land so you can build wealth.
Yeah.
Relocation, we get local people moving back home. That's always special to us.
Good. Yeah.
Sometimes we're introducing doctors and people that we need, cardiologists, orthopedic surgeons who we need in Hawaii that we're adding to this, community. Relocation happens with or without us. Traditionally, a lot of local people didn't participate in relocation. It would be the transplants because they related to these other people on the mainland. I always wanted to, like, when I was young, I wanted to so into surfing, whatever. My dad was a Waikiki beach boy. I wanted to do that. And he was like, bro, you moved from the mainland and you want to be a beach boy. Like, I left to get off the beach and now you're trying to get back to it.
Yeah.
But Duke was the ambassador of Aloha. My oldest son's name is Duke. Our YouTube channel and now this podcast, Hawaii, like we feel like in a modern way, we kind of get to be the outward ambassadors of Aloha to the world. But also, people move here, which can, in simplified way, equate to local people having to move. So
it's a double-edged sword.
It's a double-edged sword, and we, Mahe, went to Kamehameha. She's very Hawaiian. Used to live in Hawaiian Homestead, which I only learned recently. We've had other Hawaiians on our team come and go, and so we something we have to reconcile. And we can, I don't know, but in the future, one of my goals would be to have like a Hawaii Wealth Academy, whether it be starts with this podcast and then we get with other like minds and have every fourth Sunday we do a mastermind, almost like a church, and talk about wealth building and shift the mindset of local people to invest and build wealth. I don't know, but something like that has to be in our future.
That's smart.
I feel like it's my kuleana. Like I got to.
Because we don't learn that in school. I didn't learn how to manage. Like, I was a dumbass. I was spending money on my credit card that's going on trips, and I gotta pay this back later on. But they don't teach you that. So like to have something like that to like inform the younger and older people, like how to, you know, like you said, get out of that rat race, figure out how to like make some money. You know.
I was just driving here today on H1, and I was talking to my dad. He's in Tennessee now. He's like, "How's the weather there?" I was like, "Perfect, a little bit hot, but good, you know, summer in Hawaii, looking at the mountains, ocean." And I always have this thought. I was like, we could be born in the year 800, BC 800, the year 1800, before electricity. Like, yes, it's expensive to be in Hawaii. Yes, it's all those things. But mindset matters. That's one thing I would say for success principles. Get around mentors and people who you want to be like.
Yep.
Add value to them so they can just rub off on you for as long as possible. And then the whole mindset thing and like the secret Oprah stuff, like I have my ego and I'm hard-headed. I was anti all that forever. I read a book called Ninja Selling, which isn't what it sounds like. I even didn't want to read that book for a long time because it sounds too salesy.
Right.
It's more of like the soft sale. And one chapter in there talks about your reticular activating system. So like if you get a white Yoda, I'll start seeing white Yodas everywhere because you're my friend, right? And if you have a little success or we have success, I start seeing more success. Yeah. That mindset shift really matters. Yes. So I guess one of my overarching legacy goals would be to shift Hawaii's mindset towards a little more success principles and like appreciating what you have but going for more without losing aloha. And I think that's a unique thing because adjacent to aloha is that laid back vibe, right? Like just cruise on. Nah. Like just cruise.
You don't got to be too cutthroat. You can still do things right way.
Or just buy poke, buy Heineken, buy whatever, buy information share, even though you can't afford or whatever. But there's a way to be laid back and still show aloha, but also go for more.
Yep.
And build your wealth principles, build your financial habits and hygiene, right? So yeah, I don't know, to figure that out. That's one of our next missions. We do a lot of real estate. We sell a lot of homes and help people move and come back and whatever. But I think if we shift that mindset on average, more local people can stay. And to stay, buy the home and never give it up, that's really the best thing you could do.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
That's super cool. Yeah, I think the more people that have that mindset is super good. And I think for us too, it's like we had all those mentors. For us, it's it's like our duty to kind of pass down what we learned to that next generation too, right?
For sure.
Yeah. So.
Do you have any like young brands that come and ask you questions now that are on the up and coming?
We have like just friends that kind of we can see their brands growing. Like there's this thing called Fiber Workshop and super young talented kids, and we're always just talking about. But it's so cool because they have like the new generation of eye and everything. It's super cool. And to me, it's like whatever they ask or whatever, like we're always down to help. Like I think that's what got us to where we are too. Like we always were trying to help people too along the way because people helped us along the way. So we just like trying, gotta pay it forward,
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
So you guys have a shop in town?
Yep, at Dog Cannery.
You said your partner lives in Vegas. Do you guys have one in Vegas?
So we're gonna be opening up Honors next month.
Okay. What Honors you said?
Yeah. So Honors brand. So Todd is another partner in the brand called Honors. It's basically like almost like a sister brand to us because Todd's involved.
Is Aloha Army a different brand?
It's a different brand, but it's under the In4mation umbrella. Too.
Okay. It's kind of like an Aloha Army. Like it's Honors is similar kind of thing? So
Honors totally different. So it's him and our friend Raleigh. They basically... So Todd had a store called Honors first in Vegas for a little while.
Okay.
Closed down right before the pandemic. kept the brand alive, and then now it's just having another just put more energy into
Okay.
it, and then the store is gonna be opening up next July.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 9th Island people.
Yeah.
Honors in Vegas. Where is it gonna be in Vegas?
So bad with locations.
They can go online and
Yeah,
find them.
it's a cool spot. It's a cool spot, and when
Okay.
they pop it off, they're gonna probably have like a big concert the whole night. Yeah. It's
Okay.
be fun.
So Honors in Vegas, and then your store in town, is it Pi'ikoi?
It's at
is it?
Dole Cannery.
Dole Cannery.
Yeah, by Costco. So actually,
Like by the movie theaters?
on the other side,
Oh,
by
okay.
Costco side. So basically, it's our big our warehouse, but then we just have a little small storefront and it's
okay.
called Slashers.
Slashers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So guys, and then everybody can order online, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Brad, thank you.
No,
Thanks
thank
for
you.
being-
Super fun.
Yeah.
Just good talk.
Thank you.
Sorry.
All right.
Thank you.
Podcast Hawaii.